What scene in a movie really pissed you off? Near the end of The Wedding Singer, when that douchebag Glenn thinks it's so nice of himself to agree to let Julia lean over him when they fly over the Vegas Strip. That little smirk he does makes me want to punch the TV. Anytime a chess board is set up incorrectly or an impossible move is played. This happens way too much. Seriously, here are a ton of examples. Silence of the Lambs. Board is set up wrong. Amityville, when he says, checkmate, with his rook move, but it would have been impossible based on the position. Aladdin uses a 7x7 board and has no king for the white pieces. Shawshank Redemption. Board set up wrong. Independence Day. Julius says it is not mate, but it is. Oh, never mind, this is a character refusing to admit the mate. Avengers. Board incorrect. Justice. Board incorrect. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Checkmate announced, but that is clearly not mate. Asterisk, this actually was a cool endgame combination designed by I.M. Silman, but IIRC it did not translate on screen like how he had planned. Shaft. Board in the bar set up wrong. Legally Blonde 2. Board wrong. Da Vinci Code. Set up incorrectly. Rise of Planet of the Apes. Board is wrong. Paranoia. Checkmate announced but clearly not mate. Captain America. Civil War. The board in the tower is wrong. Even movies about chess or ones that specifically reference chess have inaccuracies. Searching for Bobby Fischer has tournament inaccuracies. No clock, no recorded moves, etc. Or the awful movie Checkmate has a board set up wrong despite the title referencing chess. WTF. Even the very cool movie Pawn Sacrifice is still riddled with minor chess mistakes, despite the fact that many real positions were used in several scenes. Boards set up wrong. Impossible positions. Incorrect mates. Seriously, Hollywood. Hire a freaking chess player to help set up boards. Hit me up. Not a specific movie, but I hate it when a character is trying to be sneaky, but they're also having a conversation with someone that the person they're hiding from could easily hear. Example, in Back to the Future 2. When Marty is hiding in the back of Biff's car whilst shouting at Doc Brown into a walkie-talkie. The end of I Am Legend missed the whole point of the book's ending. It's not a scene, it's a trope. I have to tell you this thing, but I won't tell you because telling you would speed up the plot, and I need you to find out through other means that I know this thing so that there can be a contrived and forced conflict 2/3 into the movie that we'll reconcile several minutes later. Trope. I fricking hate that. It's bad. Lazy frickin' writing. John Wick. When Viggo knocks John out but then ties him up instead of just killing him. I know that the bad guy not taking the opportunity to kill the hero is a common thing, but killing John is literally Viggo's only goal. John has nothing that Viggo needs. And Viggo himself delivered a huge speech about what an unstoppable badass John is. If anybody should have taken the opportunity to kill John while he was defenseless, it's Viggo. In Office Space, when Milton didn't get his slice of cake, still bothers me 21 years later. The end of Grease, where the car flies into the air for no reason. Autobots teleporting from America to England via terrible transition in the last Transformer movie. The end of Titanic, when Rose dies, she goes into the afterlife to be with some dude she had a fling with 80 years ago. What about her husband, people she spent a lifetime with, maybe a child that died before her? I am making some assumptions, but you get my point. Every scene where Percy's face appeared on my screen in The Green Mile. Towards the end of Speed, when Sandra Bullock's character is told to stay put for a minute, I knew in my heart that after being a total step to the plate badass for the entire movie, that they were going to have her do something stupid and banal. Sure enough, she steps out into the open, gets nabbed, and then gets put into a damsel in distress situation for Keanu to save. Iron Man 3. Tony threatens a terrorist and then walks around his house in the only one of his 42 suits that doesn't have any weapons on it. If he'd been wearing literally any suit from Mark 1 to 41, those choppers wouldn't have been a problem. Any scene in Harry Potter that could be completely and easily solved with magic they've already demonstrated in the previous films. It's like they forget every spell they've ever learned except the one the story wants them to use. In one of the G.I. Joe films, there is an explosion underwater and the ice at the top falls down and starts landing on the underwater base. Ice floats. I know this is silly, But the scene in Face Off where they do the face stroking thing, I don't know why it bothers me so much, but it just makes me cringe. First scene in the Artemis Fowl movie shows the main character, who is notoriously unathletic and uncoordinated in the books, riding some waves on a surfboard. Any scene in the Terminator films where the Terminator shoots a gun and misses. You're telling me Skynet can build intelligent machines and they figured out time travel yet they can't be programmed to aim straight. Not really pissed off, but an entire theater of slightly pissed off people. I was in college and a bunch of us went to see the X-Files movie in the theater. This was in Texas. There's a scene when Mulder is in Dallas and he asks a bunch of kids at a playground where the alien or whatever went and they all point west towards some huge Rockies-type mountains. The whole theater of Texans spit out their popcorn and WTFD at the same time. Superman beating the hell out of Steppenwolf. All the other characters are useless from that point onwards. Any action, invasion, war movie, video game that shows fighter jets shooting missiles at a target, then immediately getting knocked out of the sky for flying too close to the target, i.e., Godzilla 2014, Independence Day, etc. The effective range of the standard advanced to medium-range air-to-air missile is 30 to 90 miles. There is no reason for a multi-million-dollar piece of government hardware flown by highly skilled and highly trained pilots to ever get within whacking distance of the monster du jour. In the recent movie, Bloodshot, there's an early action scene in which a truck full of flour is crashed in a tunnel and then there's a shootout. Fight scene amidst a literal fog of flour in the air, mostly illuminated by people throwing road flares around for light. It looks great, but I couldn't enjoy it, because all I could think about is how airborne flour burns. And when mixed with air at the right density, it explodes. It just takes an ignition source, like any of a dozen flares, or maybe any of several dozen guns. Not to mention burning vehicles. Everyone should have been blown up and burned and starved of oxygen. Whenever a character runs from danger and falls like it is first time in their life they've ran. Whenever a character has a heated argument with their girlfriend, boyfriend and all that could be avoided if either of them let other explain the situation or misunderstandment. The scene in the fricking 50 Shades of Grey movie where he goes to Home Depot and buys a bunch of bondage gear, and includes zip ties among that list. So if you're not into BDSM, let me just tell you something. You should never ever use zip ties for sexual bondage. They cannot be loosened. They only get tighter the more you struggle. And they are thick and sharp enough to break the skin. Using zip ties is extremely dangerous and can cause serious injury or death. They have to be cut off, which can cause even more damage. And this movie acts like it's totally okay to tell millions of non-BDSM wine moms and teenage girls that this is okay. I could literally write a freaking book on all the horrible things 50 Shades gets wrong about BDSM. But that one boils my freaking blood. Harry Potter breaking the Elder Wand and tossing away the pieces, implying that he's going to keep using Draco Malfoy's old wand indefinitely. He used the Elder Wand to mend his trusty Phoenix Feather Wand. Intended to have the wand reburied with Dumbledore, and aimed to end the wand's chain of power upon his own death. When Poe's dad says, "The future of noodles is dice-cut vegetables," WTF Goose, that's a terrible idea, you're gonna go out of business. From the Green Mile, when that cunty little weasel of a guard, Percy, doesn't wet the sponge for an execution, which results in painfully frying the guy in the chair alive, and then he has the audacity to say that he didn't know it needed to be wet. The first race in the first Cars movie. Chick Hicks is just causing crashes left and right. He puts every single car out of commission except for himself, Strip Weathers, and Lightning McQueen, and nobody says a goddamn thing. Everything is peachy keen until the very end when he almost kills Strip. And then, when Lightning is pushing Strip across the finish line. Right after Chick bumps him and nearly killed him, the announcers have the fricking gall to say, "Is pushing on the last lap legal?" Seriously, this car almost killed another car going 200 miles per hour. And they're worried about another car helping the aforementioned car finish the race. And then they hand the goddamn piston cup to the car that has been systematically murdering other cars all season. Jesus Christ, that fricking movie. When Ginny ties Harry's shoelaces. Whenever you can tell that the film cost billions with a script that isn't worth a dime. The amount of bread Bill wasted while preparing a sandwich for his daughter in Kill Bill. The one where Pietro, Quicksilver, dies while saving Clint, Hawkeye. The movie made a great job at making me believe he is absolutely fast enough to get them all to safety. Also, all the missed opportunities if he had lived. See OSP's trope talk on plot twists for more. Every scene where a victim, being pursued by an attacker, knocks out or knocks down the attacker, and the victim doesn't finish the job. AAARRRGGGHHH. James Bond, Casino Royale, construction site chase, front-end loaders don't have bulletproof glass, crane controls don't lock into position, and the worst error, the scissor lift. Bond whacks an electrical control box that lets out a hiss of air that causes the hydraulic cylinders to retract. Scissor lifts can't move that fast and don't run on air pressure. The soldier who gets slowly stabbed at the end of Saving Private Ryan. Every time I see posts like this on Reddit I always think, nice, now I can see what people think about these movies, and then I don't know any of the films which are being talked about. From Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, when Indy survived a nuclear explosion by hiding in a refrigerator. Them explaining the end of Hulk's arc, the climax of his character, with some offhand reference as some diner. Such wasted potential. When Alan Rickman's character in Love Actually buys the woman in his office a necklace and all his wife gets is Nina Simone Greatest Hits CD. Especially when she probably already had all songs on it anyway. Just a bloke thinking with his dong and not his brain. Edit, Joni Mitchell not Nina Simone. Why did Rose throw the diamond? WTFFFFF. Not a movie, but yeah, Euron Greyjoy shooting a flying dragon from an invisible fleet. Thanks God, I've had enough. My fiancé hasn't forgiven Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker for them making it seem like Chewbacca had died in the aircraft explosion and then he's seen alive less than 2 minutes later. Edit, thank you for the awards, kind Redditors, including my first Reddit Gold. This is now one of the highlights of mine and my fiancé's relationship. When Charlie and his grandpa drink the fizzy lifting drinks in the original Willy Wonka movie. Why? They saw what happened to the others. When Hiccup sends away the dragons in HTTYD3 because he decided that humans living with dragons doesn't work cause there is always someone opposing it. It goes against the entire message of the first 2 movies and all the shows of, if we work together to try and understand one another we can live together in peace and overcome our differences despite other people's rejection of it. The entirety of Jurassic World. Watching Bryce Dallas Howard run all over the place in heels. Willy Wonka. Grandpa Joe getting out of bed and do the silly dance because Charlie found a golden ticket. Grandpa Joe claimed the floor was cold earlier on in the movie. When Michael Scarn returned to the president for another mission after he betrayed him. In the last Harry Potter book, Dudley and Harry a scene in which they kind of make amends. It's not in the movie. That pisses me off. You are a Palpatine, had me saying to myself, you can't be freaking serious. The final scene in The Man Who Knew Too Little. It pushed the absurdity too far. I've introduced a few people to the movie and made them agree to let me stop it before that scene. They've always finished it later and agreed that it would have left them with a bad taste of the movie. The entirety of the Percy Jackson movies. Yeah, hug the person that basically just met Han Solo, but don't comfort Chewie in any way. Rose drops that $10 million gem in the ocean just out of spite. Instead of, say, selling it and donating the money to charity. Dong move that always pisses me off when I see that. In the Chronicles of Narnia when they return to the real world and become children again. This frustrated me so much when I was a kid. Like they just lost over a decade of their lives where they were happy. But now have to abandon their kingdom and subjects to become kids living in Britain during the Second World War. That's like the first Harry Potter ending with Harry waking up in the cupboard again with no time having passed. And no apparent prospect of returning to the wizarding world. And the sequel makes it even worse since we see how much Narnia suffered because of the disappearance of their kings and queens. Again with the Harry Potter analogy. It's like Harry if returning to the wizarding world and finding out that Voldemort took over because of his absence. Here is the scene for those who have trouble remembering it. https://www.youtube.com watch v = QQRM6XYXMUA. When Han Solo died, Leia goes and hugs Rey, who she barely knows, and ignores Chewie walking by. Edit. Oh crap, someone golded me, thanks. Dumbledore asked calmly. Every scene where they just suddenly cut to a sex scene, with your family watching along with you. In Return of the King, Sam gives Frodo his water after Frodo runs out and says, "There's only a few drops left." Frodo then forgets how to drink and spills the last drops of water all over the place. Wow, thank you kind stranger for the platinum. It's hard to pick just one scene from The Hurt Locker. There's so much absolute bullshit going on, but for me it's the sniper scene where the private military contractors, normally ex-special forces types, are somehow useless and the day is saved by an EOD tech using an unzeroed rifle to take out 3 enemies at about 900 meters. Never mind, they were just driving around the desert solo to start with. They tried to make a hyperrealist sea war movie and ended up making one of the most unrealistic war movies I've ever seen. I hate it when movie characters lie to someone else and ruins a whole relationship when telling the truth would have fixed the problem. It just feels like added drama that could have easily been prevented. Didn't really piss me off, but it annoyed me that at the start of Hobbs and Shaw showing their contrasted mornings and Jason Statham used American eggs even though he was meant to be in England. Upham sitting on the staircase in Ramel. Not a movie, but end of the first season of You. When she whacks him in the glass cell and tries to escape but does not succeed. I was like, kill that fricker or he will come for you. I was so pissed by the ending. In the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, there's 2 scenes. Rey was standing in the exact right spot to use the Sith knife perfectly. Rey sees her evil self. And the scene's only purpose was to have it in the trailer. Edit. Stupid autocorrect. Any scene where someone is knocked unconscious and doesn't die within minutes or get permanent severe brain damage. What are scriptwriters so afraid of? Write some consequences, damn it. The ending to Yesterday. It was a great idea for a movie but they just blew the ending. Spoilers ahead asterisk. So this guy wakes up in a universe that the Beatles never existed in and gets famous by releasing their music. When he decides he's getting too famous and wants his old life back, he gets on stage and announces that he's releasing all of his music for free because he didn't write it. The Beatles did. How does that solve anything? He lists the 4 Beatles as the songwriters. But they don't know that. They weren't in a band in this timeline. So now you just threw them into the public eye for no reason at all. Also announcing that he essentially stole the songs. He probably was breaking laws that would need to be investigated. Nobody's going to believe his story when he talks about living in a different dimension where the Beatles existed. People are just going to realize he's crazy, including his new girlfriend he sacrificed everything for. And the worst part is, they never even try to explain what happened. This dude just woke up in a different dimension completely different than what he knows and he's just cool not trying to figure it out. They never explain why the Beatles didn't get together in this timeline. So many unanswered questions. The scene in Devil Wears Prada when Andy gives her friends expensive gifts and then they frick around and take her phone when he boss calls. All the scenes with her boyfriend and friends piss me off.